Supporters begins now. And joining us now to talk more about that, Stephen Dennis, staff writer with Roll Call. Stephen, good to see you.
It's great to be here.
So is it a surprise that he's not going to run? He said that everything was in line. His heart just wasn't into it.
Well, I think it wasn't that big of a surprise. I mean, he's somebody who's said that he's very happy in his new life. You know, he's making good money on Fox News, and he's got a pretty good schedule with his weekly show. And I think he's enjoying life right now, and you jump right back onto that treadmill for the next 2 years. That's a big toll in your personal life and your family life, and I think he certainly probably made the best decision for his family.
Mike Huckabee saying that he's hoping that those who support him will support others now, but then he listed about 5 people that he said could get that support.
Sure.
Any of them maybe might get that support, those votes, more so than others?
You know, I think it's going to, we're probably going to see that endorsement a lot later, I think, because, there really hasn't been much of a shakeout now, and there's no real big front runner. Huckabee had been one of the guys at the top, along with Romney. Trump's kind of dropped off in the polls in the last few weeks since the birth certificate fiasco, really, for him, when that birth certificate came out. So, we're still interested in whether some of these other candidates are going to get involved. Is Sarah Palin going to make a play for some of these Huckabee votes and get involved? Is she going to run? Michelle Bachmann could run. And then you see a guy like Mitch Daniels, who's seen less as a social conservative than Mike Huckabee. But if a guy like Mike Huckabee endorsed him, that would be a pretty big deal, potentially. And so Mitch Daniels is getting a lot of sort of love within the inner circles of D.C. He's seen as the kind of guy who could really make an interesting general election play against Barack Obama because of his background as a budget director, a guy who's balanced budgets in Indiana. So I think a lot of folks around here are really waiting to see what Mitch Daniels is going to do. And he's starting to make noises that he's probably going to run. So it could be a real interesting couple of weeks here as there's sort of a shakeout of who's running, who's not running, and who sort of makes the play for these votes. You have sort of other candidates over the weekend making interesting moves with, former Speaker Newt Gingrich saying that the House Republicans' Medicare plan was right-wing social engineering, which would, turn that plan into a private voucher system for future retirees. That was very interesting, sort of not and completely sort of out of left field, that you didn't expect Newt Gingrich to take on his own House Republicans. He came from the House and basically he called them as they're too conservative, too right-wing. It was sort of an interesting play for him. And then you had people like Ron Paul sort of making some ideological statements. He wouldn't have voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, considered it to be an imposition on property owners. It's like, it seems a little disconnected from the world we're in right now.
You mentioned the House. The House actually gets a break this week. The focus is on the Senate. Let's talk about the Democrats right now. Senate Democrats, one of the big things is with big oil and what's going to happen there. A decision here or grandstanding on the Hill?
This week is going to be all about grandstanding. They'll probably appoint a few judges and approve a few judges, but they're going to have a vote on whether or not to raise taxes on oil companies. These oil companies have been getting these tax breaks for years. If you look around, they're doing pretty well. And the Democrats don't expect to win this vote. This is, one of these show votes. You put it up to lose. You don't always want to win. Sometimes you want to lose and have the issue. They're going to lose probably on this vote, the $21 billion in taxes over 10 years. But the point that they're going to be making is we have this huge debt problem. We're having negotiations with Republicans. Vice President Biden is leading them behind the scenes. But in those negotiations, we're talking about cutting Medicare. We're talking about cutting Medicaid. We're talking about cutting all kinds of other programs for poor and middle-class people. We should be starting that conversation with this, because for the Democrats, they say, hey, every dollar that goes to an oil company subsidy means we're going to have to take another dollar out of Medicare, or another dollar out of Medicaid, or another dollar of food stamps. And that's going to be a very interesting to see the jiu-jitsu on that. The Republicans are going to say, well, yeah, but this is going to raise gas prices. And, as far as getting something done on gas prices, there's really a lot of wishful thinking.
Yeah, well, and wishful for many motorists out there, just about anybody that you ask. All part of that bigger budget process. Stephen, we'll have to have you back. We can talk more about that as we get closer to that.
Absolutely.
Stephen Dennis from Roll Call, thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate it. Allison, back to you.
7:39. It is 62 degrees on this Monday morning, and the Fox 5 Fan of the Day is coming up next after the break. Plus, 1 month to the U.S. Open here in D.C., so will Tiger